Welcome back, ghouls and goblins. The streets of New Capenna, right around the corner, within Magic the Gathering Arena and online, April 28th. Paper release for the pre-release event a week earlier at your local game store. Until these fantastic dates, we're going to be breaking down. I'm just picturing dates in my head. These fantastic dates. Oh no. You need the fruit, of course, for those not laughing along yet. Or maybe it's just not funny. Anywho, we have spoilers. This is the important part of today's video. We're going to break down all of these cards, right? What do they do? What are their pros, their cons, things like this? Are they craftable, or is it something that we should definitely look to avoid at all costs? Maybe it's not even meant for any formats that we have access to within Arena. There's plenty of commander cards out there, things like this. So make sure to like the video, show your support, and let's start breaking down some of these cards, because we have 280 cards to get through. 120 of them ish have been released so far. So oh my gosh, long video. Buckle up, get ready. Let's take a look. All right, here we are. Mythic Spoilers is the designated site I've chosen to use, and we see we have 122 cards revealed so far, and we refresh it, nothing new. So we're going to start at April 11th, work our way back, and there's a lot of cool things to talk about today. Out of the way, for 4 mana, instant speed, 2 less to cast if it targets a green permanent. This is fantastic as a sideboard option, obviously. Return target non-land permanent and opponent controls to its owner's hand, and then draw a card. So, bounce something of theirs, draw a card at instant speed. That's not bad. But again, against mono green, you get that reduction. You always want the reduction in my eyes, which makes it a fairly decent sideboard card for beginners, as it's an uncommon, really easy to add to that deck if you're new to Arena and looking to triumph some of those mono green decks in traditional or best of 3 formats. Moving on to Tola's Clever Conductor for 3 mana. There is a blue-white hybrid and a blue-black hybrid here alongside just a standard blue. A 3/1 legendary creature, human rogue. Whenever the Tola's Clever Conductor enters the battlefield, it connives. And whenever you connive, you're drawing a card, then discarding a card. If that card that you discard was non-land, you'll put a +1/+1 counter on the creature that connived. Whenever you discard 1 or more cards, exile them from your graveyard. So the connive card will go into exile, which is interesting. And then whenever it dies, put the cards exiled with it into its owner's hand, which is fantastic, right? So getting those cards back if it dies. However, if it is exiled itself, then, say goodbye to those cards, and that's not necessarily a great thing to have happen. However, it's here, it's playable, it's pretty expensive. Really nice if you're looking for an Esper commander, I think, as it's cheap, it's replayable. It's going to give you access to those other colors through the generic pool. But is it going to make a splash in standard? I honestly don't think so, but it's hard to say yet, as again, we only have 120 cards of 280 revealed. We can't say indefinitely, but nonetheless, it looks a little awkward. Moving now to the Illuminator Virtuoso for 2. It's a 1/1 double strike. Whenever it becomes a target of a spell that you control, it connives. We'll draw a card, again, discard a card, and then if it was a non-land card, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. This is interesting for me for things like Veteran Warsinger. It was hard to sometimes get those creatures into the graveyard, have enter with its ability, but now, we're just casting a spell like Angel Fire Ignition on the Illuminator. There's the discard, it gets bigger, and now we're replaying from our combat phase when the Warsinger will deal some damage, hopefully, that card back from the grave, which is really nice. So a good way to help us cycle through our library with something like this, and again, an uncommon, which is nice to see as well. Shakedown Heavy for 3 mana is a Ogre Warrior. This is a rare. This one's going to cost you the wild card. Now, is it worth the craft, though, right? That's kind of what it's about. The Conductor, I don't necessarily see being worth the craft right now. out of the way. Again, only if you're playing traditional and looking for a budget sideboard against green. The Virtuoso, maybe potentially we're seeing some rogues reveal themselves, and feeling our graveyard's not a bad thing either. But again, as an uncommon, you'll probably just find this in your drafts, in your sealed, and you won't need to worry about the crafting. But the Shakedown Heavy, this is the first time in today's video that we're going to have to consider that craft or wild card if we don't pick these up in our packs, because it's looking to be pretty juicy. First thing I want to mention, it is a non-legendary creature. It's a 6/4 with Menace. Whenever it attacks, defending player may have you draw a card. If they do, untap it, because it will be tapped from the attack. Tapped from the attack. And then if they choose to do so, we're going to remove it from combat, right? So no damage dealt, we get to draw. And this is why I think it's good, because it's non-legendary. You can stack it. The removing from combat for the draw is handled. Like, people can handle that, right? It's not the worst thing. It's never going to hit for lethal because they're always going to give you the draw. But through time, you can hopefully grind out your opponent. And most certainly, if you're stacking copies of it, for sure, which is really nice. It's good for, fight effects, Blizzard Brawl, Devouring Tendrils, target creature fights, or target creature deals damage equal to its power to another target creature. So maybe not necessarily an aggro card. Maybe it is. We're going to have to experiment with it. But where I see it shining is within some of these mid-range decks, where you don't mind just kind of building up these walls, having these massive defenders, and then drawing cards, nice removal, stuff like this. So I do think that this is more so a tempo/mid-range build, and not so much as an aggro card, because the things that you'll be drawing with it, I do think that you'll either want them to be protection so they can't remove it, or you'll want it to be some form of removal so you can just kind of make sure that it's keeping everything clean. So worth the craft? Maybe. It could be. I think that we will need some time to experiment with it. However, if you like to be ahead of the curve, this is definitely an interesting card in a few decks, and very easily cast between multiple archetypes, which does make it friendlier for your collection. It's not so mana specific. Even the Conductor is helpful through the generic, but again, add that much more specific than just the one with 2 generic. All right, so moving on now to the Psychic Pickpocket for 5 mana. This is a 3/2 rogue. When it enters the battlefield, it connives. When it connives this way, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. We know what this means. Discard, draw. If it's non-land, get the counter. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So potentially a 4/3 that bounces something, whether it be of your own ownership or your opponent's, for your own ETB or removal of the battlefield, Circuit Mender. Undoubtedly not the play here. But you can also, probably just tempo something of theirs back to their hand, and a really nice limited card. All right, this is where this is going to shine, in my opinion. Nowhere else will you try to strive for that value for 5 mana. Anywho, we do have the Body Cleaner. Now, this is a mythic. Holy, I do not have mythic wildcards for you, Body Cleaner. Ogre Rogue, 4 mana, 3/3 with Death Touch. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, it connives. That might be the best part of it. The fact that you can connive. When it dies, return another target non-rogue creature card with equal or less power to your graveyard to the battlefield. To the battlefield is not bad, right? So, its power is 3 immediately, which does make it more playable than you would expect, because a 3/3 for 4 with Death Touch, not bad value. However, if it can bring a non-rogue with 3 or less power immediately back into the play, the battlefield, that's not that bad, right? Picture this coming out and then bringing in a Brutal Cathar or Skyclave, whatever it happens to be. That's totally acceptable. Not bad at all. And then, of course, you can make it bigger, you can make it badder to bring some heavier cards into play. So, at first glance, I'm like, this is way too expensive, right? But on second look and consideration, I do think that this is a little bit better. However, you're going to need to have that card in your graveyard. Yes, it does connives itself, which is fantastic, but it's not a sure thing. However, when we get into the mid-range aspect of some of these games, This card is fantastic. It's not going to go in a rogue tribal because it's non-rogue comes out. But again, you know, there's the Brutal Cathar, there's the Skyclave Apparition that would absolutely love to be body cleaned. So not bad. Probably worth the craft, honestly, but we're going to have to wait and see. You know, hold on to your bootstraps. It's a mythic, so good luck on your pulls. I hope you get it. And again, going in a very specific deck, right? An Orzhov, a Rakdos. I like it. I am looking forward to seeing what else this new mechanic, Connives, has in store for us. Moving on to an Obscuria card. This is Obscuria Ascendancy for 3 mana, white, blue, and black, and enchantment. Whenever you cast a spell, if its mana value is equal to the number of soul counters on Obscuria Ascendancy +1, put a soul counter on Obscuria Ascendancy, then create a 2/2 spirit creature token with flying. As long as there are 5 or more counters on Obscuria Ascendancy, all spirits you control get +3/+3. It's actually not that bad. However, it is very strict within, you know, its unfolding to those 5 counters, as you're going to have to play a 1-drop, then you have to play a 2-drop, and then a 3-drop, and then a 4-drop, and then a 5-drop. This is kind of holy Toledo's, right? That's hard enough in itself within building the deck, but now you have to ensure that you have access to these cards at all times. So I think potentially this is good with Disturbed, maybe really good with Flashback, because often, you know, a card comes out, say, for 1, the Luminarch Veteran, I think is its name. Maybe that's not it. The 1/1 Cleric. Luminarch Veteran? I think that's it. Yeah, and then Luminarch Aspirant's the Luminarch Veteran comes out as 1, you know, and then through the Disturbed is going to come out as either a 2-drop or a 3-drop, but it's 1 card hitting 2 mana values, and I think that we could best engineer our deck through that to accomplish the flipping of this. And, you know, if we can get some spirits in play throughout that whole process, I think that's going to be fantastic as well. So a very strict card as to how it will be played. However, I do think that this is not bad, right? The option for this does exist. However, your opponents can remove it, right? It's an enchantment that's going to need to be in play for multiple turns, and they can remove it, right? However, you're going to make the creature tokens at least, so if it does get removed, you'll be left with however many 2/2s that you got to, which isn't that bad. I don't know. I'm with it. I don't think it's a craft, right? I think this is kind of like a specific deck. You know, maybe it turns out to be a top meta deck, but for now, it's just like, that's a cool card. I could make that work for fun, right? I don't think that this would be the most competitive. I feel like Hollowed Haunting, just for that extra mana, is so much better. But again, you know, there is hope here. Moving on now to the Obscuria Interceptor. This is a 4 mana within Obscuria or Esper, white, blue, and black colors, 1 generic on this as well, with Flash and Lifelink as a 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, it connives. When it connives this way, return up to 1 target spell to its owner's hand. That's not bad. That's not bad. That's not bad. So target spell to its owner's hand. This means that that spell will be on the stack. And I'm sure you remember Divide by 0. Maybe some of you are still running into it if you're playing Alchemy or Historic. But dealing with spells on the stack are absolutely fantastic. Return up to 1 target spell to its owner's hand. Absolutely beautiful. This is a good card. It's a little expensive, but you're getting a 3/1 with Flash and Lifelink that will most certainly turn into a 4/2, and you're negating one of their spells. Daddy likes this card quite a bit. Woof, woof. Right? It's not often you get a double woof, but for this Interceptor, I think it's, you know, we might even want 3. We might have to go back for a 3rd woof later. Moving on to the Augur of Agonies, Quiza, I believe. Again, within Obscuria / Esper / white, blue, and black colors with a generic here for a total of 4. As a Cephalid advisor, oh my gosh, exposing myself. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is nice because it's not once each turn. This can trigger multiple times per turn. Not too shabby. It's a 3/4, so it's a decent body that can, block. You can gain life through your draw as well. So you have nice survivability, and then you're dealing damage to your opponent, which is really nice. I don't mind this whatsoever. Again, a little expensive, but this is an uncommon, which is super cool to see. So this screams free-to-play deck. Also, this will be one of the core cards you're looking for within Limited. Because of it's an uncommon, you'll find it, frequently. If you're wanting to play within Obscuria colors, as you're definitely going to want to hoard those. So be on the lookout while you're drafting. I'm sure many of you know this, for the multicolored permanents that you can get within the set. They kind of outline, I should say, the archetypes for the specific, set of colors within the limited pool. And Obscuria doing a nice job here through that draw, lose 1 life, gain 1 life. I like to see it. And of course, we'll try our best to produce a limited guide for everyone as well. And, while we have our minds on Limited, the Shattered Seraphine, 7 mana, Angel Rogue, flying, 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, gain 3 life. So, it's a decent body for Limited. It has flying. Evasion is really nice. The gaining of life to mitigate our opponent's aggro is nice as well. But where it really shines is the fact that we can pay 2 generic mana, any color, to exile it from our hand to give a target land the ability to tap for white, blue, or black for as long as it remains in exile. And we can still cast the card as the creature from exile as long as it remains there, which is like holy Toledo. So while it's in exile, you fix your mana base, and then once your mana base is fixed because it's later on in the game anyways, boom, here's your creature back. There will be one of these for each of the families within Limited. This is the Obscuria one to fix your mana, and they are a must-have if you're drafting. Moving on now to Public Enemy for 3 mana. This is an aura, enchant creature. All creatures attack enchanted creature's controller if possible. When enchanted creature dies, draw a card. So this is a commander card. This is meant for a game mode or a format in which you have multiple opponents. We do not have access to this within Arena. Hashtag I'm Audi 5000. Moving on to this 3 mana. Bomb Expertise, instant speed. Players can't gain life this turn. Interesting. Damage can't be prevented this turn. Interesting. Bomb Expertise deals 3 damage to any target. That's actually not that bad. The damage can't be prevented is very nice. Them not gaining life for the turn is very nice. I honestly see this as a sideboard card against decks with the life gain, with the protection that still have the creatures, right? I don't mind this. I'm not entirely sure it's a main deck card, but I do think that it's interesting. That is worth your attention. And again, as an uncommon, it's easy to get after. We've missed the crafting guide a little bit here. We talked about the Corpse Bro as being a maybe. We have this probably being as a pass, right? I think we did talk about that, how it's like a theme deck. We're going to wait and see. The Interceptor, this is a craft for me. I think that this card is, similar to the Elite Spellbinder, the Brutal Cathar, the Skyclave Apparition, that you will see people running 4 copies of this as it is non-legendary in their decks, as we are kind of trying to talk about that crafting here as well. So really liking that Interceptor. And then we got into some limited cards. Being distracted here. Here's a commander card. And again, I kind of Personally, identify this as a sideboard card against opponents who have life gain, who have protection, with still those creatures you'll need to remove. Moving on, we have the Metropolitan Angel. This is a 3/1 with flying, and whenever you attack with one or more creatures with counters on them, so like a modified creature, if you will. Well, not modified though, because the auras and the artifacts won't count actually, just counters. Draw a card. It's an uncommon. Very nice, right? You're taking this. It's a 3/1 with flying. Very, very good. That draws a card whenever you attack with a creature with a counter. This is definitely something that we're looking to take within limited and even within a constructed or standard free-to-play deck. I think that this would make the cut as well, power-wise. The Stimulus package for 4 as an enchantment, red, green, and 2 generic. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 treasure tokens. Uh-oh. And you can sacrifice a treasure to create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. So, if you will, follow me to a world in which we have a Obscuria Sentinel, Magda, Brazen Outlaw, turn 3 Stimulus package. Plus now we have 3 treasures as well. Turn 3 Stimulus package, plus we have 3 treasures available. There's no way that could go wrong. Literally no way that goes tits up. Very cool card. It's an uncommon, which is super budget friendly. And I think that this honestly might make the cut within a couple constructed decks. I know a certain dragon that is going to love these treasures. Oh my gosh, double treasures, rule treasures. We're talking about the uncommon multicolor cards as a way to identify the limited archetypes that we're looking to build around with the monocolor cards. Well, look no further than rule treasures / Naya citizens, maybe even there, the 3-color, right? Because the citizens are green and white, so take a look for Naya as well within this kind of synergy. Just like we would play this draw engine within Obscuria. It doesn't have that 3rd color there, but we know where it goes, right? Moving on. Trouble on the Roof. 3 mana, sorcery, casualty 1. So we're going to sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater. If we do, we get to copy the spell. Tap target creature. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Draw a card, but it's at sorcery speed. Not great. Not great. Not great. The ability to copy it through casualty does save it, in my opinion, value-wise, as a common. So it's not great value, but it is pretty good for an uncommon. The fact that for 3 mana and a creature, let's call it Shambling Ghast, you're going to get to tap 2 creatures. They won't untap, which is really nice for a tempo deck. You're going to get some good attacks in here, and you're drawing 2 cards. Free-to-play card, not too shabby here. Again, you really do want to take advantage because it's almost not worth it for 3 mana just for the tap and draw. But if it's 3 mana, sack a creature that was intended for that anyways, for a double tap and double draw, now this value is a little bit better in my opinion. Moving on, we have Decrease the Population for 4, 2 generic, 2 white at sorcery speed as a rare. Each player that controls a multicolored creature draws a card and then destroy all creatures. So maybe we have a multicolored creature that has indestructible on it. This is very good. We wipe the field, draw a card, keep our creature. Or we just don't cast this at all ever and just use Doomscar until it rotates. Oh! Again, it could be for a multicolor aggro deck, Boros, Naya, Selesnya, whatever it happens to be, that runs into a mirror match, right, of sorts, another aggro build that's monocolored, right? So you're a multicolor aggro deck, you run into a monocolored aggro deck. This is a good sideboard because now you get the draw. Even better if you can work Indestructible into it. But, we do have things available to us like Doomscar for 3 mana. Of course, you don't have to foretell this, which is nice as well. So you know, it's on the list. I don't think it is a rushed craft, as it is a rare. We want to mention this because we already have things like Doomscar, right? We have the meat. There's plenty of removal. Yes, rotation will hit eventually this September, but until then, I don't necessarily know if we need to focus on this card. Again, keeping our eyes out for a multicolor creature that we can give indestructible, because if we could wipe the field, draw a card, and keep our creature, now that's kind of the value that we're looking for. And now that would make it a craft instead of a wait. Moving on, we have another limited card here. This is the Handsome Outlaw for 6 mana, very expensive vampire rogue. And when it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to each opponent and you scry 2. So the each opponent is really a commander thing. However, what makes this viable within limited is the fact that it fixes our mana for Maestro's colors. Now this is blue, black, and red, formerly known as Grixis, within this set referred to as Maestros. Same shenanigans here. We pay 2, goes to exile. We fix our mana base, and then we can cast it from exile later on, which is really cool. So a nice card within limited to fix your Maestros mana. A Selesnya Ritual Groundbreaker, green and white, with a generic. Artifact equipment, equipped creature gets +2/+1, has trample, not too bad. Equip to a citizen for 1, a regular equip will cost us 3. Not bad. But definitely, this can win you the game in limited. Say you've got a 6/5 fatty. Boom, now we got an 8/6 with trample. That's guaranteed. Well, not guaranteed, but likely to get some damage in each turn. The Fire Discharger for 1 as an artifact. Equip 1. Equipped creature has pay 1. This creature does 1 damage to target creature blocking. I like this because it would appear that this is a non-tap ability. This is a repeat offender, if you will, with is that a semicolon? I don't even know. But you can pay 1 multiple times and deal multiple damage to creatures that block with untapped mana. Not too shabby. I do think this is a very good card in limited, as you can basically deal with any creature that tries to block you if you have the untapped mana or enough of it anyway. So the Discharger does not tap the creature. It just 1 mana, 1 damage to target creature blocking. Doesn't even have to be blocking the creature equipped to this, which is fairly interesting as well, right? If that translation stands, that's a pretty good card, right? That's a thing. Moving on, the Hostile Takeover. 3 Maestros mana and 2 generic. 3 blue, black, and red. I don't know where I get green from. Settle down. And we're not even halfway through the cards. We have a ton left to get through. And I'm sure that my pronunciation and overall comprehension will degrade throughout the rest of the process. Anywho, for 5 mana, Hostile Takeover, Sorcery Speed as a rare. Up to 1 target creature has base power and toughness of 1/1 until the end of turn. And up to 1 other target creature has base power and toughness of 4/4 until the end of turn. Then Hostile Takeover deals 3 damage to all creatures. So this is a little awkward, but it's doable, right? You make your creature a 4/4, theirs into a 1/1, then you deal 3 damage to all creatures. Your 4/4 survives. Hopefully, they only had 1 creature that was tough, and the rest were 3 toughness or less. Right? Say they had 1 7/7 and the rest were 4 3s. We make the 7/7 a 1/1, and then the 3 damage wipes their entire field. And then we have our creature hopefully survive, and then we can hit for 4 damage. Very specific, right? They will have to be a deck with very few creatures above 3 toughness. However, there are definitely decks like that. We have a lot of aggro decks that don't have a lot of big creatures. For example, Mono White. Mono White's biggest creature defensively is Adeline at 4 toughness. Boom, Adeline becomes a 1/1 with the ability on the power. I'm sure maybe it's a 7/1 at this point. But then the rest of Mono White's creatures, if not for the Luminarch Aspirant helping out, hopefully it doesn't, you'd clear the field. So a Hostile Takeover, may have a spot in the meta, but I think we're best off to wait and see. A field wipe that has very strict mana requirements. It's nice to keep your creature alive, but we have things like Crippling Fear that can do that if you're playing a tribal deck already. But again, rotation will come in September, and we do want to proactively be looking for our next goodies. I don't think it's bad. I do not think it's bad. Could be better, but I don't think it's bad. Black Market Tycoon. This is an absolute heater. For red-green, as a rare, again, skipping Maestro, so we're going to wait that one out for the craft. This Black Market Tycoon, I believe, might be worth the immediate craft. Now, this is a card for sure. A 2/2 for 2, so nice value. A cat rogue, good for tribal. At the beginning of your upkeep, Black Market Tycoon deals 2 damage to you for each treasure that you control. We can tap it to create a treasure token. However, not bad, not bad, not bad. Of course, taking 2 damage to ramp for your next turn is acceptable. It's not like we're going to be stacking up 15 treasures or 10 treasures, I guess it would only be to kill ourselves. We might take 1 turn off, take the damage, and now we're casting something for 5. We're spending those 2 treasures in that 1 turn, and then we're back to 0 treasures now, right? And again, allowing us to ramp each turn. Not bad. You can mitigate the damage that we will take through A, spending the treasures, or B, to grab a little life gain, right? So I do think that this is a fantastic card that you're going to see a lot of. Holy Toledos. Where's a Bone Crusher Giant when you need it? Just, that 2/2 is susceptible to removal, but great value. At least it doesn't have haste. You know what I mean? The Vampire Scribe for 5 is a Vampire Warlock with flying, and whenever you gain life during your turn, the +1/+1 counter on Vampire Scribe. Whenever you lose life during your turn, the +1/+1 counter on the Scribe Vamp. 2/2, 5. Good luck with that. It really is like a Scribe. Not even a Scribe, just a scribble. Sir, no one's reading your writings. This is legible. However, something that is legible, the Luxior Guida's Gift, Holy Toledos. For 1 mana, equip Planeswalker 1, equip regular creature for 3. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it. Incredible. These counters may include, first strike, death, all these, keyword counters, +1 counters, which is a keyword, I suppose, as well, along with loyalty counters, right? Loyalty, those are counters. Equipped permanent isn't a planeswalker and is a creature in addition to its other types. This is very neat. Loyalty abilities can still be activated. So there's a couple different ways that we can take this. First off, what a fantastic card, making your creatures, planeswalkers into creatures. Could you imagine getting hit with Loaf as a creature as well? That's pretty goofy. Or the Wanderer, God forbid. Holy Toledos, that could be brutal. However, it's goes one step further than just being plain old good value, because there are ways to create planeswalkers that are non-legendary, right? So we can be copying planeswalkers more readily than just with the Chariot, right? Chariot is non-land permanent, so we could directly do it that way, but there are very few other ways to do this. However, we can copy creatures a little bit more easily. So, in the long con, your Obnixless, we have yet to touch on this, but something that you may be familiar with is a Teferi. Sorry, not Teferi, Jace. Jace that can make a copy of itself. The second copy is non-legendary. And then, we make that into a creature, and now we can copy the creature a whole bunch of times with something like, as simple as Croaking Counterpart, right? So the ability to copy creatures is much more, realistic than copying the Planeswalkers directly. So it's cool to take a Planeswalker into creature status so we can copy it. However, just base value of bringing your Planeswalker in as a creature, I think is fantastic as well. Really, really nice to see this. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. It's colorless, so it can be played in any Planeswalker deck. I like it. The Suspicious Bookcase. For 2 mana as a defender, 0/4, you can pay 3, tap it. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. You know how good that is? You know how freaking good that is, Randy? In Limited, this is going to get wins, I assure you. You know, that's in some crazy, weird artifact deck will do the job as well as an uncommon. It's nice to see. So that's April 11th. Now into April 10th, we have Exotic Pets for 3. Instant Speed, uncommon, which is, I love uncommons. Honestly, when I see commons and uncommons, I get so excited because I know that that is something that everybody is going to be able to play with, more so than some of these chase cards. At instant speed as well, you know, that certainly doesn't hurt when I'm looking at cards. And I love spells at instant speed. To create 2 1/1 blue fish creature tokens with this creature can't be blocked. And then for each kind of counter among creatures that you control, put a counter of that kind on either of those tokens. Then for each kind of counter, whoa. Whoa. This is interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Instant speed, 2 fish creatures. They can't be blocked, so that's really, really good with something like Kato. Oh man, this is just not a bad card at all. This is a good uncommon. I like that. I like that. I like that. And then you're actually getting counters on those 1/1s as well. Like, what the heck, man? Moving on. For 4 mana, we have the Forge Captain, a human warrior, 3/4, and whenever you sacrifice 1 or more creatures, Forge Captain deals 2 damage to each opponent. This ability triggers only once each turn. Each opponent, you know, signifying to us that it's meant for a format with multiple opponents, which we do not have access to within Arena at least. However, the value within this card does make it playable in a one-on-one environment. I believe only once each turn makes it a fair card, right? It's not absolutely busto, which it would be if it could trigger multiple times each turn. Once each turn is fine. The Forge is once each turn. I definitely think that this is playable. It is also an uncommon, which is fan-freaking-tastic for the budget players out there. Free-to-play deck initialized, and the free-to-play Forge deck is always very good already, and this is just going to add that much more to it. Moving on to the Pyromancer of Flaming Mallet for 3. This is Vishano. Vishano Pyromancer. You remember that? You remember that? I hope it's in the side thing. It's not. When it enters, it dealt 2 damage. It was great. Anywho, we can pay 1, tap it. Pyromancer will deal X damage to any target, holy, where X is the number of permanents that you sacrifice this turn. Okay. The idea is brewing that this will be very good. And we just looked at it, the Gruul Enchantment Stimulus package with the treasures will be fantastic because, you know, we could sack those treasures if we wanted, make the creatures, the 1/1s, and then deal damage to our opponent, which is really cool. We put that other 2/2 that makes treasures into the equation, the black market, and you know, there's definitely a deck here. And like we said, the Gruul treasures as a limited archetype becoming even more so clear to us. And the Pyromancer, again, non-legendary, which is pretty cool as well. So if you have a couple copies of these, you sacrifice a couple things, and you're going to do a couple damage, that's for sure. So I really like this card. 3 mana, 2/2. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic as a budget card. And definitely within a limited archetype, this is going to be a big find when you're looking for those cards, right? So again, like even it goes with within the black goes multiple places, which is pretty cool as well. So looking to pick that up as soon as you can if you're in that draft environment. Anywho, it's also going to be within my free-to-play environment. I love making free-to-play decks or artisan builds without rares or mythics. I wish we had a permanent artisan queue. Rathine's Guidance for 1 mana. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature has +1/+1, and you may cast Rathine's Guidance from your graveyard by paying 2 mana instead of its mana cost. Whoa. +1/+1's not that great unless we're stacking auras. We're stacking enchantments. Passing it from the grave again later on is good as well, but meh. I'm that dude within our Twitch chat this morning. Thank you so much, my friend. I really do appreciate the support. I hope you're having a magical day. And everyone viewing this on YouTube as well, if you've made it this far within the video, cheers. Absolutely love each and every one of you. Let's break down the rest of these cards. The Witness Protection for 1 has an enchantment aura as well. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is green and white, or is a green and white citizen creature token with base power and toughness of 1/1, named Legitimate Business Person. Absolutely, right? Legitimate. I like that. Shout out to Bon Bon last night for using that in the stream title. I got a good laugh out of it. Make sure that there's not a creature with +1 counters on it, right? That's something that maybe we should educate those of you who are new to the game. The base power and toughness is still modified afterwards through other things. It's the base power and toughness, right? Anywho, Evolving Door for 3 mana as an artifact. As a rare, have we missed any rare crafts? The Gift, that's kind of a craft, I think. It's a juicy craft. It's a legendary, so you don't need multiples of it, but I wouldn't mind just playing with it. Hopefully you get it in your pulls. I shall pray for you. Anywho, the Evolving Doors. Is this a craft or not? For 3 mana as an artifact. We can pay 1, tap it, sacrifice a creature, count the colors of the sacrificed creature, then search your library for a creature card that's exactly that many colors, +1. Exile that card, then shuffle. You may cast the exiled card, activate only as a sorcery. What? Okay, so this, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't think this is a standard card. I think that this is probably a commander card. I'm thinking of what's that friggin' dragon's name? The 5-color dragon that draws cards. It goes there. Is it a Bolus? I'm not entirely sure. No, it's a Niv Mizzet. It's Niv Mizzet that I'm thinking of. That could maybe go in. You want the multicolored spells. It would go in Juns, the Riveteers, something multicolored with green, the Bant or Brokers, new color combo, potentially. It's something that we definitely are going to look at once more cards continue to come out. But for now, I don't see this being standard. Maybe historic, maybe Brawl. Most likely it's a commander card. Or something out of my grasp in Pioneer, or maybe even Modern, right? But I'm just not really seeing the value for this right now. Of course, we do have a lot of multicolored cards here. They do have to be creatures. But again, it will, I believe, need to be in some form of loop. Pay 1, sack the creature, bring out a creature, of obviously higher mana because the colors are being increased. Most likely anyways, higher mana. I guess the generic thing could mitigate that, but okay. So we'd want like an 8-drop. I don't know what it just theoretically in our minds, there is a multicolored spell that's very expensive. Right? Let's say the World Shaper. It's a 6-drop Gruul spell, right? So we sacrifice a monocolor spell, and we get to search our library for a creature card that is exactly that many colors +1. We sack the monocolor spell, we get the dual color spell, which could be a 6-drop. This is 3. It sacks immediately because it's an artifact and can tap. So we ramp on 2. Turn 2 is the Edgewall Innkeeper, right? It makes a treasure. Turn 3, Evolving Doors comes out. You use the treasure, sacrifice at sorcery speed the Innkeeper, and you can pull out any 2-color spell on 3. That's not that bad. Any 2-color spell on turn 3. Creature, any 2-color creature. Xanathar is a 2-color spell, right? Wolf on that drop. Velomachus is a 2-color creature spell. Wolf, which does also have haste. So this would be a turn 3 Velomachus attack. Keep in mind. Maybe I'm too quick to write off this card. As we break it down a little bit more in depth, I do see that value. You may cast that exiled card. No. Okay, so back to thinking it's not that great again. You do still have to pay for that card, so we're not using it as a ramp engine. Oh, I got so excited for a little bit. So excited for a second. You see what you want to see, right? It's like, this card has to be good some ways. Let's make a narrative in which it'll be good now. Oh, you may cast the exiled card with paying its mana. So again, I think we're just throwing this out the window, right? You're still going to have to pay for the mana value. So why would you really want to sacrifice a creature just to pay for the mana value of a creature that you would anyways? Unless you have a way to bring the sacrifice creature back, or, you know, that sacrifice creature had a purpose or an effect when it died, but it's only at sorcery speed, which sucks as well. This is a pass as far as the craft goes. I got excited for a second. No dice. And the reason I'm getting excited is because we have Arliss? I don't even know. Pardon my pronunciation. Mrs. Knight. Arliss Knight for the subscription on Twitch. Thank you so much. Not ignoring chats, still reading, but again, trying to film this video for YouTube. Shoutouts to the YouTube gang. Graveyard Shift for 5. Sorcery Speed. This spell has flash as long as there are 5 or more mana values among cards in your graveyard. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Very expensive, but, you know, bring creatures back from the battlefield typically do cost 5 mana unless they're modified in some way. The fact that it has flash, I do think provides significant value, right? You know, if you do have a graveyard that is full enough, 5 or more mana values, that's kind of hard to achieve. However, the flash is very powerful. Very, very good. Moving on now to the Ballroom Fighters for 5 mana. A human warrior, 3/5. Whenever Ballroom Fighters attacks, Ballroom Fighters and up to 1 other target creature you control both gain of your choice between lifelink or first strike until end of turn. It and up to 1 other target creature. Very expensive, but, you know, it's there. Good limited card, I suppose. The first strike on a 3/5 is not bad, and the life gain is pretty cool as well. Unlucky Witness for 1 is a human citizen, a 1/1, and whenever Unlucky Witness dies, exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of the next end step, I should say. You may play one of those cards. That's not bad. It's a good chump blocker, right? Not bad at all. Just a really good chump blocker. I don't mind it. Exile the top 2 cards of your library until your next end step. You may play one of those cards. Even, you know, another engine that's creature based, similar to we had the Synthesizer. Now we'll have it within a creature, which is good in front of the hook. It's good in front of the artist. It's good in front of Lolth, right? Still working nicely with Deadly Dispute besides Shambling Ghast. I think this is a fantastic card. It's an uncommon, so you don't even have to worry about crafting it, and you can just probably add it to your decks. The Luxurious Liberation for 1+X at instant speed. Target creature gets +X until the end of turn. Create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. I don't mind this, right? You can just buff your creature however much you want at instant speed. It's a good limited pickup. Then we have the Errant Street Artist. Legendary creature, human rogue with flash, defender, and haste, which is a strange combination. But what this haste will allow us to do is pay the ability and tap it on the turn it entered. Copy target spell you control that wasn't casted. That wasn't cast. You may choose new targets for the copy. So, Lithoform Engine, right? You are there's a spell that goes on the stack that you didn't cast because it itself is a copy. Copying a copy, I guess, in general is how you'll get through this. There are other things that I think we could get through as well, that we're not casting. But I don't know if they'll go on the stack. Like, I don't think enter the battlefield, like, you know, if you cast something that brings something back into play, that something doesn't go on the stack as if it were cast again. I do think it has to be copied. I definitely think it needs to be copied. Fairly narrow design. This is true. It is a rare also, but a very powerful card. Really, really, really powerful card here. I guess another option, thanks to chat, is Invoke Calamity. You know, your those spells. Actually, no. Invoke Calamity is those are casts. Invoke Calamity is a cast as well. Now that we think back to it, but it's just the copies. You know, Galvanic Iteration, Dual Strike, things like this. Any copy, you'll be able to copy again, which is pretty cool. Maybe a little risky biscuits. Of course, in the comments below, let us know if there are any other things that we can do with this other than copy, because maybe I'm overlooking it. Right? Moving on, we have the Mage's Attendant for 3. This is a 3/2 cat rogue, and when it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 blue wizard creature token with K1. Sacrifice this creature. Counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. Would you look at this as an uncommon? This card's playable. It's a sideboard card as well. 4 mono white aggro decks, as you know, if there's something they need to deal with, this is a creature. It's attacking. It creates another creature, and that other creature can, you know, stop that field wipe or form of interaction. Rob the Archives for 2 at sorcery speed, casualty 1, sacrificing power 1 creature or greater to copy it. Exile the top 2 cards of your library, and then you may play those cards this turn. It is what it is, right? Maybe not super great to copy, because you'll have to play those cards this turn unless you have a ton of mana available, right? Moving now to April 8th. We must be halfway through. Getting down and dirty. The Snooping Newsy for 2 mana is a 2/2 human rogue. Demure colors, black and blue. When it enters the battlefield, mill 2 cards. As long as there are 5 or more mana values among cards in your graveyard, Newsy gets +1/+1, has lifelink. Interesting. Just a common, nothing fancy. 2 mana, Fairy Vandal within blue, as an uncommon 1/2 with flash and flying, Fairy Rogue. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Fairy Vandal. Now this is a good card. Fairy Vandal, fan-freaking-tastic. This will see constructed played. Is it tempo, mono blue tempo, maybe even Azorius tempo, but you know, this really, really helping out those mono blue decks. The flash flying, you know, whenever you're drawing your second spell each turn, or the, like, oh, this is good. This is a good card. Fairy Vandal, looking really nice. Join the Maestros for 5, sorcery, casualty 2, sacrificing power 2 or greater. If you do copy, create a 4/3 black warrior creature token. Not super bad. Little expensive. Definitely for limited. I like the idea of creating 2 4/3s, right? That's not super terrible, especially if the creature you sacrifice had an effect when it died or something, right? Cut your loss, or maybe it was your opponent's creatures, right? We see casualty a lot, so active trees and like gain control of target opponent's creature, or you know, target creature opponent controls. Gaining control of their creature, maybe you attack if it has haste, and then you sacrifice it with a casualty trigger, right? So that's going to make the stealing of your opponent's creatures for the turn much more valuable, because we'll have multiple ways to easily remove them, and I'm sure we'll find something like active treason just within red as we move through the days. Cut your losses for 6, casualty 2. Again, power 2. If we do so, sacrifice that creature, we'll get to copy the spell. Target player mills half of their library, rounded down. So, you know, you'll mill 30 and then you'll mill 15. Which will leave them at 15, which is ridiculous, but this is a 6-mana spell, so have fun with that. Not a craft, that's very much a skipperonis. The Grizzly Sigil for 1, sorcery speed, casualty 1. Choose target creature or planeswalker. If it was dealt non-combat damage this turn, the Sigil will deal 3 damage to it, and you gain 3 life. Otherwise, just 1 damage to it, and we gain 1 life. You know, really not bad. Going to be good removal in limited, right? Just 1 mana, sack a creature, deal 3 damage, gain 3 life. That's fine. For 6 mana, as a mythic, yeah, right, Avatar Flying, All-Seeing Arbiter. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, draw 2 cards and then discard a card. Interesting. Whenever you discard a card, target creature an opponent controls gets -X, -0 until your next turn, where X is the number of different mana values between cards in your graveyard. Not bad, but it's just too expensive. This is a limited chase card. You know, if you get this in limited, fantastic, have fun. Do not spend your wild card on this. It doesn't even have flash. Yeah, you want to pay 6 for this? Friggin' go ahead. I don't see it. I don't see it working in constructed. But if you get that in limited, it's really a lot of fun. The security box, I don't even know. It's a Rhino Warrior. Need I say more for 4 mana. Gruul +2 generic, and you can pay just the red and green or Gruul colors rather than its mana cost. Only spending mana produced by treasures to cast it this way. So we've seen a couple really nice Gruul treasure synergies, and this just goes alongside that, right? The fact that we can pay 2 for this instead of 4 is ungodly. This is a 5/4 for potentially 2 mana, right? Very, very good. It's a good way to spend those treasures, so we're not dealing damage to us if we happen to pull the black market cat as well. But just really cool card. Nice free to play uncommon here. Or Mila, Glamour Thief, 4 mana, Maestros /Grixis /blue, black, and red. I almost said green again. This is a legendary creature, vampire rogue with haste. We can pay 1, tap it, add Maestro's colors. So, you know, you're net positive 2 mana here. You do have to tap as well, which is a bummer. Spend only on instant and sorcery spells. This is fine, similar to Toshiro, how they can tap when you lose life and you get that sorcery spell. So maybe we're casting an expensive sorcery spell through Toshiro and the Glamour Thief. You know, that's a reduction of 3, which is fairly interesting. When it dies, return up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. That fact is quite nice as well. The haste is not bad. We like it. We like it. Most likely it comes out with haste. It holds up mana to protect it. right? Because it can tap for that mana, which can then in turn protect it immediately, which is not too shabby. So probably not playing it till 5, but we'll see. And that's an uncommon, which is pretty cool as well. The Flight Rigging for 3, Enchantment, Hideaway 5. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then if you control a creature with power 7 or greater, you may play the card exiled without paying its mana cost. So the exile is referring to the Hideaway. Hideaway is when this card enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards, in this case 5, put one of those into exile, and then when the ability is triggered, in this case controlling a creature with power 7 or greater, you get to play the card that you happen to exile earlier without paying its mana cost. So if you see that Hideaway mechanic, that's what it happens to be. Decent card, Enchantment. You can reduce the cost of this, which is quite nice. It's just going to make your creatures more powerful each turn and maybe free cast something a little later on. So not, unbearably good, but it's nice to see. As a rare, are we going to craft it? Probably not, right? It's cool if you pick it up, but, we're going to leave it on the sidelines for now. Make Disappear for 2. Instant speed casualty 1. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. Very interesting to have casualty on a counterspell, but I get it. Double counters, baby. Let's go. Professional Facebreaker for 3 is a human warrior with menace 2/3. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Okay, this is fantastic. First and foremost, it's non-legendary. You can stack this. Holy. Sacrifice a treasure, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Wow. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. We've seen so many cards that just fit with this absolutely perfectly. That turn 2 cat, turn 3 Facebreaker. Oh, man. I like this. I really, really like this. Maestro's Initiate for 3 mana, 3/1, pay 5. Exile it from your graveyard. If you do, draw 2 cards, then discard 1. So obviously, this is just a limited card. The Arcane Bombardment for 6 as a mythic enchantment. Another chase card here. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, exile an instant or sorcery spell card at random from your graveyard, then copy each card exiled this way or with it, and you may cast any number of those copies without paying their mana cost. So this is something that will snowball, right? You'll cast 1 and copy, and then copy 2 and then 3, right? So on and so forth, which is very good. If you get it in limited, hooray. Otherwise, I honestly just see this as a commander card, right? This is a brawl or commander card. 6 mana that you now have to cast a whole bunch of times on top of. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. How are you getting this into play on turn 4? And even then surviving, right? So I honestly just think that this is a commander card. If you get it, congratulations, use it to your advantage because it is incredibly powerful, and limited is a slower format, which means you might get away with it, right? Moving on to Elven, the Covetous, very expensive, 5 mana, the hybrid black and blue, as well as a hybrid black and red, making the mana requirements much easier to accomplish. It's a 2/5 legendary creature vampire rogue with flash. The flash is fantastic. Whenever Evelyn, there you go, HGG. Evelyn the Covetous, or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control. Exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. So this is interesting. Whenever, and then once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it. If it was a card exiled by this ability, or by an ability that you controlled, and you may spend, what? Oh, only from exile with a collection counter on it if it was exiled by an ability you controlled. So you can't cast spells in exile that your opponent has placed there, right? It has to be your own ability. And then you may spend mana as though it were any color to cast it, which is fantastic. Let's go through this one more time. 5 mana. It's going to take me a bit to parse. 5 mana, 2/5 flash. That's fine. Very conservative mana requirements. When it or another vampire enters the battlefield. So that it entering triggers, and then whenever a vampire enters on top of it, will trigger again. That's really nice. Exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. So gaining access to 2 cards every vampire that enters alongside itself. That is very good. And then once a turn, we can play one of those cards that we've put there. Use mana of any color to do so. I like it. I like it. I like it. I do not mind it. Is it worth the craft? No. This is a great commander. However, I do think that a few copies of it will find their way into a Maestro's Vampire deck. Now, it's not a craft for me. It's a wait and see, unless this is your shit. If you're like, I am playing Grixis Vampires, then this is the card for you. If not, this is a pretty strict card, even with the hybrid mana. Playing it in mono black, playing it in Dimir, playing it in Rakdos, playing it in the Maestros or Grixis colors. Of course, it does go other places, but at an extreme disadvantage. And now you're really making those mana requirements a lot harder to achieve. Good value within the card. It's a little expensive. However, the flash by all means makes up for this. Moving on to the Maestros Diabolist for 3 mana, a 1/4 with Death Touch and Haste as a Vampire Warrior. Now that's interesting. This is also a rare. Whenever Maestros Diabolist attacks, if you don't control a devil token, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. Ooh. So again, if you're playing Grixis or Maestros Vampires, this is the card for you. Absolutely fantastic. Death Touch, Haste, 1/4. It can create devils that are also haste and attack and deal damage when they die. Not bad. Not bad at all. However, the mana requirement is so strict that it only will be played in a single deck. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, Maestros Vampires. This will be the Grixis build of a lifetime. Moving on, another Maestros colors. Again, craft or pass. For me, it depends upon what deck you want to build. Maybe we wait and see to react to how the meta forms, and we don't know. Maybe Maestros Vampires is a new meta deck, right? We'll have to wait and see. But again, we'll get there. We'll get there. Again, all of these decks going into, or these cards going into a Grixis Brawl or, a commander deck flawlessly. Like, those are must adds. Anywho, moving on. The Maestro's Ascendancy and Enchantment, again with the strict mana for 3. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard by sacrificing a creature in addition to paying its other costs. If a spell cast this way would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. So your graveyard is going to thin out as you do this, and of course you'll have to sacrifice creatures for the ability to trigger, and then you still have to pay for the spell. Interesting. I do not think that this is a craft, personally. The Ascendancy cards are typically harder to pull off. However, if you get this in limited, you're laughing. This is a very good card, as it will provide additional value for all of your cards, which is nice. Only instants and sorceries from our grave. But where I see this working most successfully is if you have instants and sorceries that will create token creatures, right? So, you're casting an instant or sorcery, it makes a couple tokens, it goes to your grave, you sacrifice one of those tokens to recast that spell, and you kind of just fill the field more and more and more with tokens. And in Maestros' sake, I do hope that they are vampire tokens. So I guess that is where the advantage would be juiced out of this card. However, is it a craft? No, unless you're playing the Maestros vampire decks. And even then, it's more specific, as it will probably be more like a Maestros token deck. Moving on, for 3 mana, we have the beloved Dig Up the Body. I don't know if that's beloved. At instant speed, casualty 1, mill 2, then return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. I guess it's not great, though. Not good at all. For 5 mana, we have the Unlicensed Dispatch as a sorcery speed. Casualty 3. Search your library for a card. Put that card into your hand, then shuffle. It's so expensive, but it's there. Sorcery speed sucks, but, you know, they're there. Maestro's Theater as a land. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it. When you do, search your library for a basic island, swamp, or mountain. Put it into the battlefield tapped, shuffle, and gain 1 life. There will be a theater, I assume, for each of the families to really improve our land consistency within Limited. Moving on, we have another Maestro's card, the Corpse Examiner. This is another Vampire Rogue, 3/3 this time. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target creature card from the graveyard, or from a graveyard, I assume. If you put a card into exile this way, look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put 1 of them into your hand and the rest into your own graveyard. So I assume that we're controlling our opponent's graveyard, right? Of creatures anyways. If it happens to be a creature from our own graveyard, then we get to look at the top 3, 1 into hand, rest into the grave, which would definitely be what we want to do here. I'm most certain of it. And uncommon, so you don't have to worry about crafting it, thankfully, unlike those others. And it's there. It's there. You know, if you're playing Maestros in Limited, you're definitely going to want to add that to your pool. Or we're going to see it in Constructed, not outside of Maestros. And again, some of the more strict cards we don't look to craft as they're only playable in 1 deck, and that's not the greatest, unless their power level is just ridiculous, right? So taking a quick look at the lands, they're all right. I mean, they're always pretty good, right? We do not mind this at all. And then we have the new commanders. I guess we could go through these quickly. Both of them are cats, which is fairly exciting for me, actually. Cross Defense Contractor within the Brokos or Bant colors, green, white, and blue with a generic on the side. Legendary creature Cat Advisor, and again, this will be your commander as a 2/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a shield counter on target creature an opponent controls. That's not really great. Whenever 1 or more counters are put onto a creature you don't control, tap that creature and goad it, which I believe means you get to choose its next target for the attack. And because it's commander, you have multiple opponents and you can choose someone other than yourself, which is really nice. And then it will gain trample until your next turn, right? So kind of playing the instigator here, which is pretty funny. Fabian, Boss is Confident for 6 mana within Nios. Naya colors, Nios. You know what I mean. Again, a Cat Advisor here. Creature tokens you control have haste, which is fantastic. Parlay. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each player reveals the top card of their library. For each land card revealed this way, you create a 1/1 green and white citizen token. Then creatures you control get +1/+1 until the end of turn for each non-land card revealed this way. Then each player draws a card. So there's just like a ton of value within this. Making tokens, getting +1/+1s, and drawing. Really nice to see. Moving on, though, back to the regular release, we have April 7th, the Courier's Briefcase for 2, an artifact treasure within green mana here, and also potentially within all 5 colors. We can use this within Limited no matter what color we are if we have green as a base here. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token, tap it, sacrifice it, add a mana of any color. We can also pay 5, 1 of each color to tap it, to sacrifice it to draw 3 cards, which is interesting. So if you've got your mana figured out, you can tap it, draw a bunch of cards. That's going to be fantastic. However, it is unlikely, but a nice pipe dream if you have the mana availability. Of course, the briefcase can be stacked, and it can help that mana availability out as well while we're on it. Anywho, just limited fodder, really light. Up for 2 mana, casualty 2, deal 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Not too shabby. Maybe you're sacrificing a powered up devil, right? Something like this. Incriminate for 2. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by the same player. That player sacrifices 1 of them. I don't think is great because it requires your opponent to have 2 creatures in the first place. Maybe they only have 1 and then you're hooped. An offer you can't refuse for 1 at instant speed, counter target on creature spell. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. I don't think that this is good at all. You never want to ramp your opponent by any means We have the Rumor Gatherer for 3 as an Elf Wizard for 2/1. Alliance. Now, this Alliance mechanic I'm very excited about. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. This is the second time this ability has resolved this turn and draw a card instead. We have dual color tap lands that can pay 4, tap, and sacrifice. So basically 5 to draw a card, right? Helping us fix our mana as well. Vivian of the Hunt for 6, 4 loyalty, legendary planeswalker, +2. You may sacrifice a creature if you do search your library for a creature card with a mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value. Put it into the battlefield and then shuffle. Not actually too shabby, just to like tutor out creatures from your deck, make them bigger, make them badder. We can +1, mill 5 cards, then put any number of creature cards milled this way into your hand. That's actually not too shabby either. And then -1, create a 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token, which is actually fantastic. So, you know, -1, -1, +2 or +1, then -1. And you know, you're just really filling the field with those 4/4s, I believe. Unless you need the immediate ETB through a specific creature or something. Moving on to the Nimble Larsonist for 3 mana. This is a 2/1 bird rogue within Obscuria, or white, blue, and black colors, with flying. Whenever it enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose an artifact, instant, or sorcery card from it and exile that card. It's an uncommon, which is really nice to see. Similar to the Elite Spellbinder. However, it cannot hit creatures, it cannot hit enchantments, but it is a hard exile. Your pros and cons. Murder for 3. This is a reprint, instant speed, destroy target creature. Strangle for 1, sorcery speed, 3, damage to target creature or planeswalker. That's actually not too shabby. Chrome Cat for 3. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1 as a 3/2. Mysterious Limousine for 5 is a 4/4 artifact vehicle. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 other target creature until the Limousine leaves the battlefield. If a creature is put into exile this way, return each other card exiled with the Mysterious Limousine to the battlefield under its owner's control. Crew for 2. A nice way to kind of, quote unquote, revolving door your creatures with enter or leave the battlefield effects over and over again, which is quite nice. Crew 2 as a 4/4, not too shabby either, but the 5 mana is fairly expensive. Cut the Profits for 2+X at sorcery speed. We missed some crafting shenanigans. You don't craft these. Vivian is a pass. I don't think Vivian is that great for 6 mana. There's no, -6. The +2 is almost wasted because there's no ultimate ability, so we skip it for now. The Limousine, again, is also a skip or a pass for now. It's too expensive and too restrictive as to what you're doing, I believe. Again, the Skyclave or the Luminarch, or not the Brutal Cathar. These things are good, but at the end of the day, we can get around it in other ways and just attack regularly. It's not like this has haste, you know what I mean? Anywho, Pit the Profits for 2+X, casualty 3, draw X cards and lose X life. I actually don't mind this card. Sorcery speed, kind of a bummer. However, just the ability to draw however many cards you may need is not too shabby. Albinixless the Adversary for 3 mana, 3 loyalty, legendary planeswalker, Nixless. Casualty X. The copy of this legendary isn't legendary, which is really cool, and its starting loyalty will be X, which is great. +1, each opponent loses 2 life unless they discard a card. If you control a demon or devil, you gain 2 life. -2, create a 1/1 red devil creature token. With when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target, and -7, target player draws 7 cards, then loses 7 life. First off, this is fantastic. So, you're sacrificing a creature. That creature's power will determine the token copy that is a non-legendary's starting loyalty. So say you sack something with 5. Or there's that 3-drop 6/4, right? You sack that. The second one comes out with 6 loyalty. It -2s, right? And then it goes to 4 loyalty. This Nixless +1s, it goes to 4 loyalty now as well. And then you have a demon, and you also have gained 2 life and dealt 2 damage, which is fantastic. Of course, you could double minus if you need to defend, but this is a very, very, very good card. The fact that you can make copies of it through sacrificing a creature, and then, it just goes from there. 2 planeswalkers, 2 sets of abilities. And those abilities that they have are very, very good. Getaway car for 3, crew 1, 4/3, haste, artifact vehicle, obviously, with the crew. Whenever it attacks or blocks, return up to 1 target creature that crewed it to its owner's hand. I don't mind this. We can potentially snag our opponent's creatures, gain control of it, use it to crew the car, attack for 4 because it has haste, right? Easy peasy. And then that creature goes back to their hand, which is a nice tempo play. So there is room here. First off, Obnixless is a craft. We're going to craft a copy or 2 of this for sure. It's fantastic. We do not want to miss out on this. Cut the Profits is a skip for now. It's not a must-have, but it certainly is good. Urabrask, Heretic Praetor. The Getaway car is potentially a craft if you want, if it's in the right deck for you. We're going to have to wait and see if we can find some cheap ways to steal or gain control of our opponent's creatures before we commit to it, though, yet. So, it's just kind of one of those tasty-looking potatoes on the back burner. Urabrask, Heretic Praetor for 5 mana, 4/4 haste, legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library, and you may cast the card this turn. And at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, the next time they would draw a card this turn, exile it instead, and then they get to play that card this turn. So the thing here is they can't grow their hand size, right? Unless that card that they're playing this turn is a draw card. Because if they don't cast this card this turn, it goes straight to exile. So where this really shines is with Jin-Gitaxias. Jin-Gitaxias countering the first spell every turn. The Urabrask making sure that they can only have 1 spell each turn, as they're not allowed to, build up their hand, gain 2 pieces of removal, cast 1, counter, cast the second one, and it actually goes through. So the 2 Praetors, Jin-Gitaxias and Urabrask, will be a complete lockout. So look forward to that. I do believe that this is a craft as well. A couple copies, 2 copies of this, just to play alongside Jin-Gitaxias. Again, we're going to have to wait and see how the meta unfolds, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it's going to be a problem. Elspeth Resplendent for 5. This is a 5 loyalty planeswalker. +1. Choose up to 1 target creature. Put a +1/+1 counter. And a counter from among the following: flying, first strike, lifelink, or vigilance. So you get the +1 counter and a goodie counter here as well, which is very, 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 very good. That is one of the better +1 abilities I've looked at in a while. -3, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a permanent card with mana value 3 or less from among them into the battlefield with a shield counter on it. Put the rest into the bottom of your library in a random order. Whoa. So just, Elspeth for 5, -3. Here's a Skyclave. Here's a Cathar. And it has a shield counter? Get out of town. That's incredible. -7, create 5 3/3 White Angel tokens with flying, which is going to win the game, as that basically represents 15 damage alone. Holy Toledo. So the Elspeth Resplendent is a craft here for myself personally. What a fantastic card. Each one of these abilities shines through. Gala Greeters for 2 mana with Alliance Elf Druid for 2 mana as a 1/1. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. Create a tapped treasure or gain 2 life. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Hollow Fountain or Halo Fountain for 3. This is an artifact. Greeters is a craft if you're a druid player. An elf player. It's a wait and see if you're an aggro player like myself. I do think that it will fit into a rule deck, but we're going to have to wait and see a little bit here. Maybe even a Naya build as we grow closer. But we're going to be experimenting with this card, so it's kind of on the fence right now. I, again, really like the Alliance mechanic as an aggro player. Anyways, Hollow Fountain, Halo Fountain, 3 mana, artifact, mythic, whoops. Pay 1, tap it to create a 1/1 creature, which is fantastic. You also get to untap a target creature that you control. So it attacks, now it can defend. This is good with something that has first strike, as it can defend Thalia, potentially, and those tokens can chump block as well. We can also pay 2, tap it to untap 2 target creatures that we control to draw a card. So, it's just getting bigger. It's getting badder with our untaps. Since we have 2 creatures, we probably don't need a token. What we want to do is grab a draw. And then finally, tap for 5, and then untap 15 tapped creatures that you control, which is pretty goofy. And then you're just going to win the game, which is fantastic. So first off, you're going to need 15 creatures, and then you're going to need to tap those 15 creatures as well to untap them, which is, pretty silly to think that you could accomplish that. But at the end of the day, I don't mind the first two abilities. They're quite nice. It's a mythic, but I can't justify it. So for me, right now, this is a pass. Wire tapping for 5. This is a rare enchantment, hideaway 5. Look at the top 5. 1 goes into exile, rest in the bottom in random. Whenever you draw your first card during each of your draw steps, draw a card. So you draw an additional card. That's fantastic. And then whenever you have 9 or more cards in hand, you may cast or play the card, within exile without paying its mana cost, which is fairly feasible considering you're double drawing. You have a full hand at 7. Here's your draw to 8 and 9. And then boom, there you go. You can cast that card for free. So it's expensive for 5, but it is a really good draw engine. And you can free play a card. So, this is really nice. Is it worth the craft? Still, probably not. But again, it does show a lot of really nice potential. The Devilish Valet for 3, Devil Warrior, 1/3 with Trample and Haste, Alliance. Whenever you have another creature enter the battlefield under your control, double the Devilish Valet's power until the end of turn. Does it get better than this? And this is why I'm considering the Green Elf that we just looked at within a craft card, because to me, the Devilish Valet is a craft as an aggro player. It doubles. So you play a creature from 1 to 2. Here's another from 2 to 4. Here's another from 4 to 8, right? Trample and Haste, so confirmed damage. And then we get juicy. We play something like Lizard Blades. It's a creature, so it triggers it. Plus, now here's double strike on a trampled creature. Can we ask for more? Devilish Valet, I cannot wait to play with you. Jaxis the Troublemaker for 4 as a 2/3 legendary creature human warrior. Blitz for 2, which means we can pay the blitz cost, but if we do, it will come out with haste and then sacrifice itself at the beginning of the next end step. And when it dies, we draw a card. So there's a couple different things going on here. First and foremost, we hardcast for 4. We can pay 1, tap it, discard a card, create a token that's a copy of another target creature that we control. It gains haste, and the same thing. When it dies, draw a card, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step at sorcery speed only. Really cool. Much like we've seen Kiki Jiki put in absolute work, the Troublemaker will do no doubtably the same. But where it gets really juicy is the fact that if we have 3 mana, we play it for the blitz. It has haste, so we spend our 3rd mana, we tap it, discard a card, create a token that's a copy of Jaxis. We sacrifice the original one. We played with Blitz because it's a legendary. We get the draw. This one attacks. We get the damage, hopefully, and we draw another card. So it was discard a card, draw 2 cards with an attacker. And as it is a legendary, now we can play 4 copies of it, and we have a strategy for the additional copies, right? We're going to play it as the Blitz. It's going to self-sacrifice. And then B, we can also just discard it with the ability itself if we need. So the Troublemaker seems pretty juicy, and the versatility of the different ways that you can interact with it seems nice as well. Zyatora the Incinerator for 6 mana, Demon Dragon 6/6, flying. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, the Incinerator will deal damage equal to that creature's power to any target, and you create 3 treasure tokens. Oh my gosh. That's a lot of meat in the seats. Wow. That is not bad. No haste here. But again, it's at the end step. There's going to be a big trigger. We're going to get some damage, hopefully, and create treasure tokens, which is not too shabby. Like 3 treasure tokens is kind of crazy. So, maybe something like a sushi. It dies, it creates 3 treasure tokens, and then it deals 4 damage to your opponent, and then creates another 3 treasure tokens. That's 6 treasure tokens, 4 damage. Definitely a pretty meaty mid-range card, seeing as it costs 6. But this is definitely a thing. I don't think it's necessarily standard worthy. It's definitely not a card you're going to spend your mythic on. Devilish Valet for the rare, sure. Jaxus, sure, if you're into it. But again, wait for those meta decks as they will reveal themselves. But I can assure you that these will be there. However, the Incinerator, the Dragon Kami Egg to cheat it out. Yes, this is much more viable, and then the sacrifice is good through things like the Emberstone Predator to bring more dragons out. We could definitely make it work within that deck, but it's too specific to recommend that you spend the Mythic wildcard on it. However, stay tuned to the channel as we're definitely going to be busting this dragon out to the best of our jank abilities. A little chat for 2. Instant speed, casualty 1. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand, the other in the bottom of your library. This is very good. I like this card. Instant speed. You can copy it. Not too shabby. The Ledger Shredder for 2 is a 1/3 with flying, and whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, the Ledger Shredder will connive. Again, draw a card, discard a card, non-land, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Pretty decent. It's going to get bigger. It's going to get better every turn. It has evasion, which we like. No flash, but we can't ask for too much, can we? Valkospara Pact Weaver for 4 mana within Broko's colors, also known as Bant, or green, white, and blue. 3/3 flying trample, legendary creature, bird demon, and when Valkospara Pact Weaver enters the battlefield, it will do so with a shield counter on it. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast spells from among the top cards of your library by removing a counter card from a creature that you control, in addition to paying that spell's cost. Not too shabby. We really like it. Whether it's a commander or just a juicy mid-range card, I think we could definitely get behind that. Brokos counters and, just playing spells from the top of our library is always cool. Disciplined Duelist for 3 mana. It's a 2/1 with double strike. Uncommon, which is nice. And when it enters the battlefield, it will do so with a shield counter on it. That's a good card. 2/1 double strike, shield counter, 3 mana. The mana requirement, incredibly restrict. But again, you're going to have plenty of options to fix that up. We have some commanders to go through. We're not going to touch on those today. Some new lands from the Secret Lair, as well as Artist Showcase. So if you're interested in Secret Lairs, there's been some new drops, and nothing really worth going through as we're not going to see them incorporated within Arena. And then we have the charms. I've broken down these charms in another video. I actually didn't release it because all of these other things happened so quickly. It was the Mythic Qualifier weekend, and we just fell behind. So the charms are for each of the colors. You'll see the Brokers with Bant. We see the Riveteers with Jund. We see the Cabaretti with Naya. We see Obscuria with Esper. We see Maestros with Grixis. They're all uncommon. They are all instant speed. You get to choose one of 3 triggers for all of them as well. So starting at Maestros, and we'll work our way up from here. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Put one of those cards into your hand, the rest into your graveyard. Good for their recursion. We've seen some support for that. Each opponent loses 3 life. You gain 3 life. Worst case scenario. Deal 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Good removal, right? So really nice versatility within each of these cards. Obscuria. Return target multicolor permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. We've seen plenty of 3 mana multicolor permanents within today's video to choose from, as well as things like Luris in Historic. Counter target instant or sorcery spell. That's fantastic. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. That's incredibly overpowerful. What a cool charm. Cabaretti. Deal damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample. Create 2 1/1 citizen tokens, green and white. And then we have some other cards here as well, which are incredibly powerful. These are the family bosses, if you will. They're also great commanders for the set. Jetmir, Nexus of Rebels within Naya colors, or the Cabaretti. It's going to be a while for me to link these together in my mind. However, it's a 5/4 for 4, good value, legendary creature, cat, demon. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, sign me up, Z. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample as long as you control 6 or more other creatures. And then finally, creatures you control get +1/+0 and have double strike as long as you control 9 or more other creatures. That's pretty goofy. +3 Double Strike, Trample, Vigilance. If we get up to 9, that's incredible. Lord Xander the Collector for 7 mana, 6/6. Again, legendary creature. This time a vampire demon noble. Whenever Lord Xander the Collector enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half of the cards in their hand, rounded down. Not too shabby, but very expensive. Whenever Lord Xander attacks, defending player mills half of their library, rounded down. Not too shabby, but again, very expensive. And then finally, whenever it dies, target opponent sacrifices half of the non-land permanents they control, rounded down. So good value. It's just so freaking expensive. And then finally, Rafine, Scheming Seer for 3, 1/4 flying, ward 1. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. That's not too shabby. Lots of +1/+1 counters there, filling your grave as well. And then we've got some secret layers that we didn't need to talk about. Riveteers is our final charm here. Target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker they control with the highest mana value among planeswalkers and creatures that they control. Exile the top 3 cards of your library until the end of your next end step, or until your next end step, I should say. You may play those cards because you can't actually play things during your end step. Unless it's instant, I suppose. Exile target player's graveyard, which is fairly decent as well. So a lot of availability there. Same with the Broker's Charm. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. Destroy an enchantment or draw 2 cards. Again, the versatility through these charms, absolutely through the roof. There's the secret layers. Here was some more commanders. There's so many commanders for the set. It's ridiculous. Let's get all the way up to the top. And do we have any new cards to close out the day? Oh, goodness gracious, we do. So we talked about Out of the Way. Now we have Security Bypass for 2. Enchant creature, as long as enchanted creature is attacking alone, it can't be blocked. Enchanted creature has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, it connives. That's pretty decent. It's too bad it doesn't have flash. Cemetery Tampering for 3 mana as an enchantment. Hideaway 5. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may mill 3 cards. Then if there are 20 or more cards in your graveyard, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Oh, that's risky biscuits. That is a pass as far as a craft goes for me. Topiary Stomper. Woof. For 3 mana. Plant Dinosaur, 4/4 Vigilance. Whenever it enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card. Put it into the battlefield, tapped and shuffled. Whoa! It can't attack or block unless you control 7 or more lands. That's interesting, and I think that might be a craft. It enters, and you get a land. That's turn 3 ramp within a 4/4 creature that can later on become active. I like it. I do think that that is a craft. And that's going to be it for today's video. Whoa. We have 281 cards total. 125 of them have been covered in today's video, which is just absolutely ridiculous, right? So a ton of spoilers revealed today. A ton more cards to go throughout this process as well. An hour and 40 minutes of literally non-stop rambling. I can't believe I've done it. Thank you all so much if you've made it through the video to the end. I really do appreciate your time and attention. I'm going to take it one step further, though. I'm going to ask you to like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel, and maybe even if you're financially stable. Of course, I don't want anyone who can't to try and support me, right? Support yourself first, but become a YouTube member. You'll gain access to exclusive content. Recently, we're playing Star Wars, Kirby, things that aren't your typical content. Cheers, have a magical day, and we'll see you soon in the next.